How's it going, everybody? Today's video is going to be about the recent changes that I've done to the Fluval Evo 13.5. I hope you enjoy it, and let's get into the video. So first of all, let's take a look back at the tank. I believe this around December through March timeframe of this year is when I had a dino outbreak in my tank. I didn't take a whole lot of video when it was at its worst. I would usually clean up first and then do some video. So the photographs that I'm going to show here in a minute show it a little bit more in its worst. So these are dinos under the microscope. These are my dinos. This is my microscope. It was actually pretty cool to be able to see them in there. You know, me and my kids had a good time looking at them. But it wasn't fun to have them in the tank. This is a couple of photos where you can see how bad that it really was. So this is recent. In the last couple of weeks, I've noticed these bubbles, stringy bubbles starting to pop up. And I don't like that. I have to have some kind of PTSD from the dino outbreak from before, because it has really stressed me out. So seeing these, I decided that I needed to do something. So the first thing that I did was test my nitrates. Testing these are going to let me know if my parameters are starting to get conducive to supporting the dinos, because when the environment's right for them to grow, that's when they'll take over the tank. So nitrates were extremely low. They were around 2 parts per million. For this tank, that's extremely low. I like to keep them at 5 at the lowest, and you know, between 5 and 20, probably about 10 to 15 is where the sweet spot is. So now that I know that my nitrates are too low, it's time to raise them up. Started feeding the tank more to be able to bring my nitrates up a little bit higher. Maybe because the corals are getting bigger, they're starting to absorb more nutrients. So I feed very little anyways. It's not going to hurt anything to start feeding more, and my nitrates are starting to come up pretty successfully. Another thing that I have done is to relocate my UV sterilizer. I relocated it to the first chamber, so that way the overflow, all the water would flow through that. And the only way for me to get that to work was to put a new pump in there. The stock pump has worked for me fine, but now that I'm wanting to force water into this UV sterilizer, I needed to get a little bit more flow. The stock pump just wasn't cutting it. It wasn't flowing over into the UV sterilizer enough. It was just kind of trickling down. So now I have it flowing into the filter floss on top of the UV sterilizer as my filtration, and then also as a preventative measure to treat the dinos. This seems to be working. I haven't seen any more bubbles popping up in the tank, so that leads me to believe that, you know, I made the right decision to do that. So the decision to do that was actually, you know, thanks to you guys. It was one of the questions I had about having my UV sterilizer in the middle chamber. How was it working? I really couldn't answer it. My whole thought process was that some water got in there. Hopefully it was enough to do the job, but to be able to optimize its performance, I needed to put it into the first chamber. So I made that decision, and I had to go ahead and retire the stock return pump and go ahead and upgrade it to something a little bit more powerful. Now this new pump is working out pretty good. You can see there's a lot more flow. Now one thing that is happening is I'm getting micro bubbles. Like you see right there, how it just spit out a cloud of bubbles. It's doing that, and I don't know how to stop that. So if anybody knows how I can get that to stop, please let me know. But for right now, I'd much rather have micro bubbles than a dino outbreak. But all in all, it's worked out. I'm happy with the results. And also, I want everybody to know that I am a beginner in this hobby. I'm just like most of you. I assume that's who my audience is beginner reef keepers who have bought this tank and want an example of what you can do with it. I'm just like you guys. I have learned everything from YouTube videos pretty much, and I'm still learning a little on-the-job training pretty much with this reef tank business. With that being said, that's going to conclude today's video. Hope you liked it. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to comment below. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. And until next week, take care.